And welcome back,
To Read the Room,
A Culture Club.
a podcast by
Alexis.
Kaylin.
and Larson.
Today, our episode is on overhyped and underhyped books. I really wanted to start today's episode off by bringing up, introducing, if you're unfamiliar with, the New York Times Best Books of the 21st Century list. This is a list that they published originally in 2024, and there's two variants. One variant is the Critics' Choice list, and one variant is the Reader's Choice list. And each list has 100 books published in the 21st century, which so far, is only at that point been 24 years. And they're ranked by voting either from readers, which is like the general public, or critics and people who are actually in the book industry. Are you guys familiar with these lists? Did you see them?
Yes.
I am. I have two dedicated challenges open on Storygraph if you want to join them.
Oh, nice. Okay, well, I really wanted to know what you guys thought about the books that were ranked at the top of each of those lists. So
Mhm.
I'll start with the Reader's Choice list because that's the one that I personally think is more interesting.
Yeah.
Here's the top 5. In number 5, we have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. Then The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr, and Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. What do you guys think about that list? And for listener context, we read Demon Copperhead fairly
Yes.
recently. That's the number 1 on this list.
Yeah, I can see why it's number one. It
Yeah.
is like a modern rendition of a classic story. I think that Barbara Kingsolver is a really great American author. I think that she feels the American story. She understands that, and I did enjoy Demon Copperhead. I have not read any of the rest of her works. I like Demon Copperhead.
Like Demon Copperhead.
I've read 4 of the top 5. I have not read The Goldfinch yet, but The Secret History is one of my favorite books. So I feel like I have
That's who that is. I was like, I know that name.
Yes,
Okay.
Miss Tart. Yeah, she was
Yeah.
Secret History Queen.
I am so excited to read The Goldfinch. Of those top 5, I think Demon Copperhead is the only one that I feel like is only on there because of recency bias. Like,
Okay.
it's certainly not a bad book, but when you compare it to
The
the
other.
others, like, I personally loved A Gentleman in Moscow. It really felt like he was emulating Russian authors just in the style, and like it's not going to be for everyone, but it's so good. It's one of those books that like a lot happens and nothing happens depending on what you're interested in. And All the Light We Cannot See is just another one of those like World War II books, but like it is good. It's solid. But I think realistically for me, of these top 5, sub The Goldfinch because I haven't read it yet. Pachinko would be at the top of my list for those. I don't think that any of the other ones touch it in terms of what it's trying to tell, what it has done. Even if like I think A Gentleman in Moscow is like a really fun read, I think Pachinko should be number 1.
That's so interesting. So, I mean, I agree with in terms of what I've read, which I've read The Secret History, so I've read some Donna Tartt. I really want to read The Goldfinch. I believe it's a top 10 book. I
Yeah.
believe yeah.
Yeah. If Secret History isn't, and she has another book and it is, I feel like
I am a Donna Tartt stan until I die.
I wish she had more because she only has a few
Well,
novels.
she produces such quality because she
Yes.
spends like a
Yes.
decade for a book.
Yes.
But like I wanted to bring it up not because any of these are bad books because they're not. These
Mhm.
all of the books that like I just read are good works, but this idea of hype and
Mhm.
is something accurately hyped
Mhm.
was on my mind when I personally read through all 100. Of course, we're seeing like just a tiny snapshot, but
Yeah.
all 100 of the books on the Reader's Choice list. I kind of thought the Reader's Choice list was chopped, if I'm being honest.
I completely agree. Like, again, all of this is biased, but like number 10, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I did not enjoy that book, and I know a lot of people like it, but I don't think it's number 10 of the 21st century. That's
Yeah.
Right,
crazy.
I've
right.
also seen A Little Life. I've not read that yet, but I've heard that that is very overhyped book as well.
Yeah, I've willfully like refused to read A Little Life, which is rated number 11 on the Reader's Choice
Hmm.
list because it's controversial. It's a controversial book. But when you look at that Reader's Choice list, I think that, as Larson kind of pointed out, there is some recency bias in
Hmm.
a lot of the choices and a lot of the picks.
Mhm.
And it kind of led me to this question of like, when we think about books that are overhyped, we're tired of hearing about them, we're tired of seeing them, they don't deserve the praise that they get. And books that are underhyped, why isn't someone paying more attention to this great work? Who's driving that hype?
Mhm.
And because of publishing and because of sales, it's going to be the readers
Hmm.
and not the critics.
Yeah.
But just for comparison, can I read the top 5 critics'
Yeah,
choice?
Do
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the number 5 spot for the critics, we have The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen. Number 4, The Known World by Edward P. Jones. Number 3, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Number 2, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. And number 1, My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. Have you guys read any of those ones?
I have not read a single one in the Critics' Choice Top 5. I have Wolf Hall on my bookshelf. I have Caste by Isabel Wilkerson on my bookshelf. I honestly haven't even heard of The Gnome World or The Corrections. I read and hated The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante, but that one
Whoa.
I never hear anyone talk about, and I only ever hear people talk about My Brilliant Friend and the Neapolitan Quartet. So that's I feel like it's not necessarily a fair assessment, but I do find it crazy that it's number one for critics.
Yeah, I have not read any of those books, unfortunately. I'm a little disappointed, I think, in that, but maybe not based off.
I will say, I don't know if it's 2666 or 2666.
Mm.
I DNF'd that a few years ago,
Mm.
and I don't understand how that's at number 6. That book was insane. Maybe it's great. I hated it.
Well, I do think sometimes critics rank books highly because they make them feel big brain.
Oh,
Yes. Oh,
agree.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a little
Like us plebeians can't understand
yes,
it.
yes. It's like these are the books that we read.
Right.
This is what we
Of
enjoy.
critical
Yeah.
acclaim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, throw my uh experience with the critics top 5 in, which is
Mhm.
Yeah.
admittedly none. Like I also
Yeah.
haven't read any of those books on that list, but
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think that's really interesting and really telling because what that tells me is that notoriety
Mhm.
and what critics at the very least would consider quality do not go hand in hand, right? That
Yeah.
that hype machine is very much an everyman's game. So
Yeah.
if a book gets overhyped, if we hear about it tons and tons and tons and tons and are drawn to it like because of publicity, that isn't necessarily always an indicator of quality. It can be. Like,
Mhm.
obviously, word of mouth is a powerful tool. But I think that I got really thinking about this whole concept of hype
Mhm.
and what is too hyped and what
Mhm.
is not hyped enough from this list, taking into account other people's opinions, because obviously it's just so subjective, right?
Yeah.
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 And I also kind of think like one person who has a big following either as like a traditional writer of like a critic that writes for New York Times or a TikToker or a Substack blog, if the right person gives a certain opinion, I think that really heavily drives the public opinion.
Yeah.
And I think TikTok being such an echo chamber also does a poor job at overhyping things in that
Mhm.
manner.
Well, I was going to say too, I think it's interesting looking at the 21st century list because over these last 26 years, but this list was, you said 2024, I think,
Yeah.
where we have predominantly gotten book reviews from
Hmm.
has changed over these years.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I think, especially since, like, I don't know, would you say 2018, maybe earlier,
Hmm.
people are less likely to go to the New York Times, especially younger generations
Yeah.
as they're becoming like adult readers. Like I'm not as likely to pull up the New York Times to get my
Hmm.
book review. I might or
Yeah.
like, to say, "Oh, you should read this book next." Like it might filter down from there and reach other circles and I might eventually read it, but like
Hmm.
that's not the first place I'm going
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of interesting to see, like, maybe the readers list is informed by where they are going
Yeah.
to get recommendations, and it's not New York Times anymore, whereas the New York Times critic list, they're kind of in a different kind of echo chamber.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
just like the fact that also we're using less physical books. So whether that's more audiobooks, more ebooks, you're less likely to go into a Barnes and Noble or a local bookstore or even a library and see what's on the end cap or see what's
Right.
recommended or see those different suggestions that aren't just through your algorithed TikTok, YouTube, whatever.
Yeah, I will say the caveat to that though is like if you're getting things through online sources, like you're getting your audiobooks from Libro FM, or you're
Yeah.
getting your,
There are recommendations still.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
still genre recommendations, there's still bestsellers, there's still whatever. So like unless you're, going for one specific book, there are still ways to see what else is out there.
Yeah.
For sure. Absolutely. And I do think it's important, like, on the outset of this episode, because I'm sure that some people are going to listen to it and think that we're being a little bit of haters, but like, just because we talk about maybe the potential of something being overhyped by the change in like book readership and book culture in this modern landscape,
Mhm.
just because it's got a lot of hype doesn't necessarily mean that the author or the book are bad or that you
Mhm.
shouldn't read it.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of times something being popular builds a classic, right? Like it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
okay for something to be popular. That is not what we're trying to say. Shakespeare was like literally a rock star in his day. But I think that when the hype doesn't feel accurate, it can make a disappointing read
Mhm.
actually feel kind of agitating.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like, I had so much hope for this. Thought this was gonna be so good, and I was
Yeah.
just struggling through, like,
Yeah.
that's not a good feeling.
No.
And I think for me, sometimes where I think about overhyped books, it's less about like whether or not I enjoyed it.
Mhm,
It's more like, okay, maybe I didn't like this, but I can say this is still a good book. It's when I hear people praising a book and I
mhm,
read it and I'm like, well, this was just okay.
yeah,
Like, the concept is nothing new, the writing is not that great. Why is this the literature that people are like, oh my gosh, you need to read this?
yeah.
That's where I get
I
frustrated.
also feel like, though, our culture, you ca a lot of people are ride or die, like, one way or the other. Like, there's a
Mm.
lot less space for nuance or, like, critique of something that you do
Well,
like.
that's what I mean is
Yeah.
like,
No, I'm
yeah,
agreeing with you
okay.
in that way. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I mean is like some of the books on my overhyped list, I could have rated 3 stars.
Yes.
I could have
Yeah.
said, this is fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's been like
You can
shoved down my throat.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
enjoy a book and not think it's the best book ever and,
Mhm.
like, be the spokesperson for that book. Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to be the
Yeah,
spokesperson. It's
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, like sometimes like the popularity machine can make it so that a piece of art, it's not okay for it to just be good enough.
Mhm.
You
Mhm,
know? Like it is okay to consume art that is just good enough and to be like, well, that was a read.
mhm.
Yeah.
And you can still take a lot away from a book that was just okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
whether it was just you didn't vibe with it or the writing was poor, like,
Mhm.
it could still have really valid points and memorable moments,
Yeah.
and it can still be good. You just
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
be ride or die.
But if
Yeah.
you're told over and over and over and over again, oh my gosh, this is a life-changing book, this is a life-changing book, this is a
Mhm.
life-changing book, you are going to, instead of just being like, it was okay, be upset. Yeah,
Yeah.
like this isn't what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, yeah, and so I guess it's driving the hater culture
Mhm.
too, not just the lover
Mhm.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say like there is a level of like we all have different tastes.
Mhm,
So my 5-star reads are not necessarily going to be Alexis and Kaylin's
Mm,
5-star reads.
mhm.
But I feel like that's almost a different conversation from the
Overhyped.
overhyped. Yeah.
right. Because while we can dictate our own tastes, we don't really dictate the tastes of popular culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was one more kind of fun activity that I wanted to do before we got into specific books, which is that as I was reflecting on my own opinions about the New York Times best books of the 21st century lists, I thought surely other people must have had feelings about this. And in fact, they did. Readers had such strong reactions to the Critics' Choice list specifically that the
Mhm.
New York Times actually compiled a bunch of like write-ins that people had given them. And I wanted to read just a couple off and see how you guys feel about these potentially kind of hot takes or strong opinions. Again, this is in response to the Critics' Choice
Yeah.
list
Okay.
specifically. So the first one that I wanted to share was a predictable list, a disappointing list, so much political correctness. That can't be good for art.
I was on the same page with them until the last part.
I lost me there.
You lost me at the end.
Yeah, so the elites are woke? Too
Yeah,
woke?
I guess.
Okay, how about no Sally Rooney? Exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark.
I can't speak to this. I've never read Sally Rooney, so
I have read Intermezzo and Normal People.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like those are completely different reader experiences and complete different books. And I don't know if she just got better with Intermezzo. I'm not a fan of Normal People, and we'll talk more about that later.
that's kind of interesting because I've heard so many people are. I mean, just in general,
Hmm.
she's a divisive author. People
Yeah.
love her or hate her, and I feel like I've heard more love for Normal People and more hate for Intermezzo. So it's interesting that you have that.
Yeah, I felt like Intermezzo actually had a story.
Yeah.
Mm. And with that, I actually think it's probably a good time to get into specific books that we thought fit this definition of overhyped that
Yeah,
we've been building.
absolutely. Normal People by Sally Rooney is one of my overhyped books, and I don't understand how somebody can walk away from that book being like, wow, that was phenomenal. Like, it was okay. It was a story. It was extremely slow. Um, the characters felt unrealistic to me. I felt like the relationship also felt unrealistic. There's basically no plot. It's kind of just like it just talks a little I mean like it's about the relationship and I understand the book is about the relationship, but it just like feels like we're just going in circles about the same things and just at the slowest, most tedious, annoying way possible. Um, I did like that they go their separate ways in the end because I think that for the book made a lot more sense than if they stayed together. But I did like Intermezzo. I feel like it had a lot more storyline. There's a lot more actual plot going on and more characters intermingled and like building off each other as opposed to Normal People. I much liked Intermezzo a lot more.
I mean, again, I haven't read Sally Rooney yet, but I feel like this is one of those, just based off what you're saying,
Mhm.
it kind of sounds like the discussion of like what somebody values in a book.
Mhm.
And some people really love like a character driven book, and some people really love a plot driven book.
Yeah.
And sounds like maybe if you want plot, don't read Normal.
Yeah. Normal People, yeah. I think that's a pretty accurate assessment.
Yeah.
But also, when you read the book, so I admittedly haven't read the book. I
Mhm.
have watched the television show. Um, but when you read the book, did you
Uh-huh.
feel like if it wasn't plot driven, that it was character driven, or were they kind of like flat characters? Because in the show, they're like Marianne and Connell are
Yeah.
both like at the simultaneously in the show complex and also a little flat. So
Yeah. I can agree with that, but I kind of feel like they're complex in a flat way, if that makes sense. Like
Would
they're
you say they're normal people?
no, I actually would not.
no, they're kind of on some freak shit in
Yeah.
normal
And
people.
you know what? I'm not yucking anyone's yums, but she is also like kind of wealthy, so she's not really that normal. But anyway, yeah, it's almost like they're falsely uh God, what was the word I'm looking for?
Are they shallow?
Yeah, maybe shallow, like it, but it feels like she's trying to build depth and it's just not there. Like the meat's just not there.
Was it
Uh,
that they're like unrealistic?
I think it is a little bit because they're unrealistic. I think she also just maybe improved to Intermezzo.
Hmm.
Just one of the reviews I saw on Storygraph. If I'd read this book when I was 16 to 22, it probably would have made me sob. At 28,
Yeah.
though, it just pissed me off.
Yes, I can 100% agree with that. Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, that's another factor to like bring up in the conversation about like where hype comes from and the subjectivity of it all is like
Mhm.
your age really matters so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And maybe the people who love normal people are just in a different place in life.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I was once too. And I will be again.
Well, I guess somebody might call me a big hater because I have a long list of books and authors I think are overhyped. Some of the more popular ones are I think we all agree here, Colleen Hoover. She's not a good author. What she writes
Oh
is
my
trash. It's
gosh.
messed up. It's whatever. I don't understand how she's getting any
Yeah.
movie adaptations, but we'll move on.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I need to mention what
No,
Alexis,
no.
what is the plot of her most recent book?
Oh my
It's the
God.
book, right?
Yeah.
Or is it
Woman Down.
yes.
Woman Down
Yes.
is the name of her most recent book. And in her most, okay, she literally has made a statement being like, Woman Down is not about my life. It's not about my life. The plot of the book is that an author goes through a harsh cancellation because something goes wrong with a movie adaptation of
It's
one
not
of her
about my life.
books.
It's not about my life.
Right. It's not about my life. It's not about my life. That's that's literally you, bitch.
Yes.
And then goes to do writing in a retreated cabin and ends up acting out her true crime romance fantasies with a police officer. It's all bad. It's all bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's convoluted, it's unrealistic, and you know what? People are eating that slop up for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've only read Verity because I thought like, okay, of all the books she's written,
This one.
this
That's
one
the most intellectual
this
Colleen
might
Hoover.
be.
Yeah.
I could barely finish it. I was hate reading. I was so pissed off. I could never get that time back. It I awful, awful, awful. Other authors I think are overhyped. Riley Sager,
Mm.
just like I don't know, there are better mystery, thriller, horror writers out there.
Yeah.
He's not good.
I can't remember the one. I read a short portion of it. I just could not get into it. I can't remember which one it was. And we had a conversation at that time that it feels like he's using an androgynous name for a reason.
Yeah, yeah,
Also, that like brings up a good point too, just by like Larson saying that he he
he,
that
Mhm.
he is
yeah, he,
overhyped
Mhm.
because in part, like part of the reason why is because there are better people writing in his genre out there.
Yes.
And that is a factor too. And if something is overhyped, it's the comparison of like, well, you're getting a ton of attention.
Mhm.
Is that fair next to someone else in a similar genre or
Mhm.
who's telling a similar kind of story who might be doing it better and getting less attention?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
another kind of agitating part.
Yeah.
yeah. And well, with Riley Sager, I feel like he's published in a way of like, oh, these are some of the top thriller, whatever.
Mhm.
But it's an airport book. Like it's not well composed. Like I remember finishing Home Before Dark and being like, that's it.
Mhm.
That's the twist. That's the ending. I'm upset. Okay, like why am I reading this?
Yeah.
Uh two I guess three other like more fantasy authors. Ava Reed. I have now read two of her books. They are so bad. And people are saying like, "Oh my gosh, they're so like she does like this gothic romantasy, weird girl stuff." Okay, maybe, but they're poorly written. Read something else. Rebecca Ross. Her books are
Mm.
just okay.
Yeah.
They should all be uh categorized as YA and they're not, and I think that's my biggest issue is they they read YA. And that's not an insult,
Mhm.
but like write for YA then. That's not an adult fantasy book.
Kind of feels like an insult.
No, I mean there are amazing YA
Oh,
books.
Oh
absolutely. But
yeah.
just how you said it, I felt like an insult.
And then my last one, my last overhyped author, and this one's really gonna piss people off. V.E. Schwab.
Mm.
I have DNF'd three different books by her,
Ouch.
and I have finished one because I had to.
That's three strikes, you're out.
Yeah.
And I know people love her. I don't understand. I think that it's odd to me that she writes a lot of her female characters. If it sounds like a man is writing them, I don't think that her world building is that great. I don't think that her just in general, like writing is that great. I don't understand it, but yeah, those are my overhyped authors.
Yeah, I have what I would think is an overhyped author if I personally read more.
Mhm.
But the book specifically is Stephen King's Fairy Tale.
Mhm.
That I feel like is very overhyped. I was excited to read that. I had seen it so many places. I've only read a tiny bit of other Stephen King. Um and it really fell flat. It felt like it was way longer than it needed to be, which I kind of feel like is part of his style. Um, it felt very predictable, and I know tropes are tropes for reason. Like
Yeah.
that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
It felt like he was trying to be like satirical or like acknowledging the tropes, but like not doing a
Mhm.
great job about it. And he made so many pop culture references. It was
I
annoying.
hate when authors do that.
Yes, it's just like this boy young man, I don't know, he's like
Mhm.
18, traipsing through this fantasy world, and then he just like thinks about McDonald's. Like it's like
It
what are we talking about?
it it dates a book.
Yes, yes.
And so many modern authors are doing that now with like TikTok and Instagram
Yeah.
and saying some kind of trend or whatever. And I'm like, why are you doing that to your book? You don't need
Yeah.
that to put us in the headspace of the character. You don't need that to put us in a time period because realistically, don't you want your book to hold up throughout time?
Yeah. And I do agree with that. And in this case, I think that it's like him being like, I can write a young boy. I might be an old man, but look, see, I'm in touch with the youth. Like that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you that it does date books. I don't know why in some circumstances that authors do that on
Yeah.
purpose. But I just finished the Jeanette McCurdy Half His Age, and she talks a lot about like binge shopping,
Mm-hmm.
uh like fast fashion,
Mm-hmm.
Shein, Forever 21, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that felt right, like
Yeah.
for that book.
Yeah.
And obviously that's really dating. I hope it's really dating that book.
Yeah.
But like I think in some instances it works. But
It has
also
to
if it's
make sense.
overdone, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that note, I'm gonna talk more later about tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, but this is just too related to not bring up now, which is one of my chief complaints of that book was that it's so referential
Mm-hmm.
that all of the references feel really hollow.
Mhm.
And instead of giving depth to something or a specificity, instead it makes the reader have so much assumption of meaning. There's actually close to 100 distinct pop culture
Wow.
references,
That's
and
insane.
it's
Yeah.
a 350-page
Oh my
book.
god.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think it's because the part of the plot of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow deals with like video games and video game development, but it's not just video game references. It's like
Yeah.
pop cultural references. It's makes it so dated, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it almost just like, is it reference for reference sake or is it adding to something? Like, does it actually mean something? Or are you just trying to shove some references in there?
Right. So often it feels like when authors fall into that overly referential trap, it's just because they want to be like, look how many times I can do this. Look how I can throw this out. Look, reader, do you also know about McDonald's? Like me
Yeah.
too. Like
I
Yeah.
also love McNuggets.
it's like some kind of quota, but it just unless it's done with purpose and
Yeah.
intentionality, it just feels flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many other things you got in there, hater?
I got a lot. I could narrow it down though. One that Kaylin and I both read
Hmm.
that is up there on a lot of people's lists over the last like year or
I
so.
have seen it as like if I could rate it more than five
Yeah.
stars or like different types of trends like that, where
Yeah.
it's like it exceeded my expectations so much. I love this book, and every single one I'm like, should I block you?
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Well, the book is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And the only like criticism I saw going into it was some people who are like thriller readers are like she's trying too much to be like literary fiction.
Hmm.
And then literary fiction readers being like why is there this random mystery going on? And that's the problem. She falls flat on both parts. It's not a good literary fiction novel. It has this mystery thriller plot thrown in there, but that's not even really a main focus. She's focusing on a lot of the characters, which is okay if you can do it well, but she wrote all of her female characters the same.
Yeah. And I've seen people compare it to Silence of the Lambs.
What?
Yeah. And I'm like,
What?
what do you mean? Did you
How?
read this book? Because there's a mystery. I'm so
What?
confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud exhale.
The deep sigh felt round the world.
Two other overhyped books that like they're fine, but they're the same book. Red Rising by Pierce Brown and The Will of the Many by James Islington, not totally sure if you how you say the S. Um they're the same book. They're the same book. And I've heard that the Red Rising series gets really good in the like second trilogy, but it's just okay, and like that doesn't make me want to continue the story. And same with like The Will of the Many, it I don't understand why there's not more comparisons being made to these two books because they're the same book. um but yeah, they're not like bad, but they're just overhyped. Like I don't understand how there can be so much love for both of these books often by the same people, and it's like you read the
Yeah,
same
no
book.
recognition that it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I even feel like within like the fairy romance
Yeah.
universe, people are like, no, a lot of it's the same,
Yeah.
and but we're okay with that.
Yeah. If I need to narrow it down and just pick a couple. um The Alchemist. I don't know if you guys read The
Oh,
Alchemist.
is
Oh, I
that
saw a lot of
the?
praise for The Alchemist,
I
actually.
hate The Alchemist.
I think that has been referred to as like the pretentious boy book.
It's a book so many people love, and
Mhm.
like they find a meaning of life in there. I don't know, some deepness. And another friend of ours also has read it, and she has the same opinions as me. It's why? It's not that good. It's not that deep. It's
Mhm.
not that like groundbreaking.
Yeah. My dad one time was telling me this story,
Mhm.
and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's The Alchemist. And he's like, yeah, I just read that. And I was like, okay, you didn't preface it with that, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have not read The Alchemist, but when I was researching for this episode, came across actually so many references to it in one article from the Daily Star about popular and overhyped books. The author literally admits that him and his classmates in undergrad would quote The Alchemist just to look cool, but that
Hmm.
like that came from a place of him genuinely loving the book, and that it wasn't until in this specific book, a coworker said that she felt the narrative was pretentious and not lyrical, and that the philosophical ideas of the book felt really forced and not spontaneous. That this author actually realized that sometimes people don't enjoy reading popular books and have different tastes, that's so crazy to me that like
Yeah.
that was your catalyst.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. No, it I mean, I don't have a alternative for you, but I'd say skip. um
Well, if you want something lyrical, read The Secret History.
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I didn't have a long list. It's not because I'm not a hater on it. Like, also, just like want to point out, the only reason my list isn't longer is because I read a lot of essays in place of the time that I would spend reading books, and no
Eh,
further comment than that.
yeah, I would say not like fun essays.
Yeah, not like a collection of
No.
essays.
No, no further comments on the topic or quality of essay. But that means that when I do read, everything that I read, I do feel like I try to be really intentional about it. And I
Mhm.
had a book that had been on my list for a long time because I saw it everywhere.
Hmm.
And so I was really excited when I got time and made time to read this book. I read it last summer when I was on break. And that book is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a 2022, so fairly recent release by Gabrielle Zevin. That means it was only 2 years old when both of the New York Times lists were published. It was 76 on the Critics' Choice list and 7 on the Reader's list.
That's insane.
Wow.
And here's what I want to say about it. It's not that I disliked it. I'm not saying that I disliked Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Please don't come for me. Beautiful cover design. beautiful
You can
I
come
gowns.
for
was gonna
me.
say
They're
that.
gonna come for me.
I was gonna say, the cover sometimes I feel like has so much to do with how it's put into TikTok videos,
Yes.
and like, I mean, if it's more interesting or it's prettier or it's more your aesthetic, you're more likely to put it on. Like, that's sad.
Oh, for sure. It was beautiful cover, beautiful gowns.
Yeah,
But
beautiful cat.
uh but I didn't dislike it, and there was things I did like about it. For one, I appreciated kind of the originality of a book that's set in the early aughts that
Mhm.
has like a game development focus, because I never read anything about game development. So
Yeah.
I did like that, but I had a couple gripes. Gripe number one, it was overly saturated in the book market, I feel. I mean, anytime I went into an independent bookstore,
Mm-hmm.
it was right there front
I
table.
Yeah.
think still.
Still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
still for sure.
Maybe not front table, but definitely like prime end cap.
And because of that, like I felt really overexposed to it, and that made me a harsher critic of it, which just like kind of makes you think, how much does that oversaturation and overexposure affect our ability to enjoy a book, movie, or TV show? I know that's kind of like what we have been talking about this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
but in this case, it set me up with high expectations. Already mentioned that it was overly referential, but I also thought that it had flat characters.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've already talked about, you can't lack plot focus and lack character focus, right? You have to have one of the two. I'm going to talk about plot in a second, but in terms of the characters, some characters were better than others, but the main female character I found disappointing. I actually found a review by the Spinoff book site, and they did a really interesting comparison between Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and the Before Sunrise trilogy, my beloved Before
Mhm.
Sunrise trilogy.
Okay.
Because I do ride for that series of movies, which we
Mhm.
have talked about in our 2025 favorites episode. I really like the Before Sunrise trilogy, and I found that this was a really interesting analytical point of comparison, because while the stories are different, both follow relationships where people veer in and out of each other's lives over long periods of time. Here's what the review said. It said the Before series is profound because of how wildly specific Jesse and Celine's relationship is, how their relationship spools out from that first chance meeting in Vienna. We feel for them so hard because we see ourselves in their strange little quirks, like looking through a window and accidentally catching your own reflection. We relate a little too hard. Zevin goes too far in the other direction by making Sadie feel like every woman she feels like literally no woman. And I related to that so hard, because everything that I love about the Before Sunrise trilogy was potential in Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I judge a book harsher when it feels like, oof, this had so much potential.
Yeah.
But unfortunately there are like long passages when describing Sadie, who is the only female character really of note in the book, where it's that almost tumblery. She loved straight leg jeans and cashmere sweaters. She loved matchas, but only before noon, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's in a messy bun. um, so the characters was a problem for me, but there was also some problems with the plot. Admittedly, I thought the beginning of the book, like I said, starts off with promise, but the ending to me was dissatisfying and kind of disillusioned. Um, at the end of the story, I don't feel like there is, gosh, I don't want to say much of a point. But the journey seems like almost incomplete. It seems
Mm.
almost like we're following two characters who at the end of the day don't come to some revelation about the purpose of each other in their lives, so much as are still linked just by happenstance. It and that's not to say that like the issue is that the book doesn't have a happy ending. Sad endings can be really satisfying, but it's just that at the end, it kind of meanders out in a way,
Mm-hmm.
which I actually think maybe was the point, and I just didn't like it, because the title Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is taken from Macbeth. It's a Shakespeare quote from Macbeth, and that whole tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow passage represents the kind of monotonous and inevitable like passage of time in life.
Mhm.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, the monotonous and inevitable passage of time was my time reading this book.
Well said.
Just to do one last overhyped book.
Hater diatribe?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I have many more overhyped. If you guys want more, I can give you more. But my last one I'll say for now is As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. Just to, switch it up a bit. That book is not good. And like I enjoy stream of consciousness every now and then. Maybe not my favorite writing style, but every now and then it's good.
Mhm.
But I feel like what you were saying, the pretentious boy book,
Yeah.
this is the pretentious boy book.
Yeah.
And I think it's just overhyped. So I'll just leave it at that.
I do want to talk about another one that's on your list that I can see there, and
Yeah.
that is The Glass Castle. And we were talking about, is it bad or rude to say that a memoir is overhyped?
Yeah.
But like the writing can still be poor, or there can be better memoirs out there, which there
Yeah.
are. I mean, we've read phenomenal memoirs.
Yeah.
I've also read bad
Yeah.
memoirs.
I think my issue with The Glass Castle in terms of it being overhyped is I guess I don't understand why this is the memoir that so many people like talk about.
This is the memoir.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And I don't know if it was like the first memoir of this kind or just like when it came out,
Mhm.
if it hit with whatever was happening in like 2005 or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just okay. That's my thing is like I think it's overhyped because it's just okay and there are other memoirs that do the same thing and are better.
Yeah.
I think I've done enough hating. We can move to what we think are underhyped
Yeah,
books.
we want to
Okay.
prove to you all that we're not just haters, we're commentators.
All right. Well, an author that I think is underhyped. And I've heard criticisms about this author. I haven't paid super close attention to the criticisms. But TJ Klune, I think, is a great writer, and I've only read a portion of his catalog. So of the TJ Klune books that I've read House in the Cerulean Sea, Under the Whispering Door, and Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which is the sequel to House of the Cerulean Sea. He has a couple of other series and just other books, but I really did enjoy both of these. They're kind of heartwarming and fantastic, but not childish, I feel like. And one of the books, The House in the Cerulean Sea and Somewhere Beyond the Sea, they're about magic. It's like a world where magical creatures are kind of being like persecuted or like segregated, and the island that the house in the Cerulean Sea is on is like a foster home for these kids that are in the system because they have some sort of magic, whether it's like they're gnome or they're literally Lucifer. They have like very the character development is great. How they're written, they are not flat. They are robust characters. There's a beautiful love story between the person who runs the home, Mr. Parnassus, I believe, and it's like what's it, enemies to lovers. Because he's like the inspector for the like foster home agency. But it's, I don't know, I really enjoyed them. He has another one that I think I mentioned the name, Under the Whispering Door. It is about grief and like regrets in life and making connection in life, and it is also just really beautiful and also a great love story too.
Hmm. Those sound really wholesome.
Yeah, yes, that's a good word. They are wholesome.
Yeah.
And they're funny and they're easy to read and like they're just nice little books.
I love that because I kind of feel like a lot of the books that do get hyped sometimes are
Mhm.
like Traumageddons.
Yes.
Like it has to be the saddest book that you've ever read, a little life, in order to like gain notoriety.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of like a wholesome story that deserves attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the books that I put on my underhyped list is actually a book of poetry because one of the remarks that someone had in response to the Critics' Choice book list was about how poetry had just disappeared from cultural significance and how that should kind of tell us something, because critics are able to register stories that we tell ourselves, but not able to hear songs that we sing. And that made me really reflect on some beautiful poetry that I have read in the last few years. And that poetry is by Ada Limon.
Mm.
She was the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States, but I feel like so many people still don't really know about her. Like, and which makes sense because again, she is a poet, but poetry does get published in books, so
Mhm.
that still counts.
Mhm.
They can include beautiful narratives. Specifically, I wanted to bring up her book of poems, Bright Dead Things, which is really dealing with like grief, the grief of losing her mother, and it's just has all of these moments and memories and reflections on womanhood and captures a feeling versus a story, but still has like narrative in it. So I just wanted to take a moment to say kind of underhyped genre
Yeah.
poetry, but specifically like we should read some Ada Limon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can agree with that. I feel like growing up in English class, like in college, or not in college, not college, in high school, two male teachers specifically that I can think of were very anti poetry. And when we would get to the poetry unit, they'd be like, I fucking hate
They
poetry.
kind
I
of
don't even want to teach
shouldn't.
this. Like, and then it would be the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner and like kind of more,
Glory poetry,
yes.
dulce est decorum, or whatever the Latin is.
Yes, yes. And like boy poetry and also like a long story. It wasn't like short poems or more like something with more brevity. It was much longer pieces of work too.
Yeah.
But I definitely would read more poems. I just feel like a book of poetry feels like such a commitment, but also a book is a commitment. So what
Yeah.
is this barrier that I'm
It's
making?
truly not. It's truly not, though, because poems are oftentimes
Mhm.
short. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, some poems are very, very long. Of course, we know this, but a lot of the times you can read in just like 3 pages a whole poem. So that can sometimes make books of poetry actually feel more digestible than traditional books.
Mhm.
And I do think that like our society right now is really shutting off our emotions because things are really scary out there.
Yeah.
And poetry, you have to accept that it is emotional, that it is about feeling. So
Mhm.
maybe there's some difficulty there. I'll just chuck in another book of poetry while we're here and say that Nikki Giovanni wrote this book called Love Poems. It's a collection of poems, and she passed away last year.
Mm.
And so I went out and I got her poetry book, Love Poems, to kind of read it in
Mhm.
homage to her. And touched on so many different kinds of love, and again like was not something filled with tragedy. It's not even not even sad emotions, right? Reading a book of poetry doesn't have to be making yourself feel sad. It was a book about all the different kinds of love that we experience, and it was funny, and at times it was crass, and at times it was silly, and I really appreciated that. So that's my note on poetry.
Okay, I'll have to add that to my list. I definitely feel like while I have a few different books of poetry, it's few and far between that I actually consume them, and I think it's because sometimes I'm like, do I read this as a book? Do
Yeah.
I read one
One at a
poem a day?
time.
How
Yeah.
do I want to approach this?
Do I just put it by my bedside and just
Yeah.
like when the vibe feels right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
While I am a hater, I am also a lover. I I love to read. I read
A lot.
a lot. And so I do have a long list of books I think are underhyped too. So two that I think maybe don't necessarily go along well with your guys's we need cozy, we need good.
My
um
next one isn't like that, so
these are underhyped in the circles I'm in. And a couple of these are translated from different countries, so they could be very popular in their origin country. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. But Too Loud of Solitude by Bohumil Rabel. I'm pretty sure he's a Czech author. Really short book, really amazing. I went in pretty blind, and I not that I recommend that necessarily, but I was so surprised how much I loved it. and I don't really hear anybody talking about it. Same with The Lisbon Syndrome by Eduardo Sanchez Rugeles. Another one that, like, maybe not the happiest, but is really profound and I think is really relevant today and maybe is too heavy for a lot of people right now, but I highly recommend that book. And then I have a couple where the author themselves is fairly popular and some of their other works are pretty popular right now, but I think their other work also deserves some hype. So one of them is Euphoria by Lily King. She's the author of Writers and Lovers and her new book Heart the Lover. But Euphoria is about anthropologists back in the day and it's really really good.
Doesn't have Jacob Elordi in it.
No, different Euphoria. And then All My Rage by Saba Tahir. Right now, a lot of her fantasy work is popular, but All My Rage is so, so good. And again, maybe not the happiest book, but so, so good. And I think it is young adult, but it covers some really, really heavy topics and honestly, very applicable right now. It's from the immigrant families and immigrants themselves and very applicable right now. Could be good for your students. It's a young adult, but like I would definitely
Yeah.
say high school for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then The Book of Longings by Simone.
Absolutely. I actually just re-listened to the audiobook because I had read the physical book
Yeah.
when did like 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I want a little
Is it
vibe.
still good?
It's so good. It is so good. It didn't make me bawl my eyes out like it did the
Yeah.
first go round, but oh my God, that book just it hits so many different
Yeah.
like it
And obviously Sumon Kid is a well-known
yes.
author,
Yeah.
but I don't hear people talking about The Book of Longings.
No, no. And honestly, I don't feel like Sumont Kid is brought up enough. And don't think I've read any of the rest of her books.
I read The Secret Life of Bees.
Yeah. They made that into a movie, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But oh my God, The Book of Longings. I recommend that to literally anyone. It's such a great story.
So good.
And I I'm going to tell you sort of what the premise is and don't get turned off by it. But it's about like the fictional wife of Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus is in the story.
Yeah.
He's a main character, but like a
It's
lot of
from
the time you forget he
yeah.
exists. Like it's about Anna and
Yeah.
like his fictional life. And like how strong women had to be in that era and all of the horrible things that happened to them
Yeah.
and she's documenting all these things that she sees around her and it's beautifully written.
Yeah.
It's so she had to do so much research or her team had to do so much
Yeah.
research for that book, but oh my God, I
It's
love
so
that
good.
book.
A book that I think is like very similar, and I read it probably like only a few months after I read The Book of Longings, and it's older, so I'm not sure if it like used to be popular and now isn't quite as popular. But The Red Tent by Anita Diamont,
Oh yeah.
very similar, but also like different and very good.
Yeah, I think that's definitely on my TBR,
Yeah.
and I think I've just kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should read
I
that.
would say underhyped in our generation. Like
Yeah,
I don't think I've heard anyone our age talk about it.
Mm.
My mom is the one who owned the copy that I read, you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I've definitely seen it on some like more focused book recommendations.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've definitely been interested to read that. I think Octavia Butler is underhyped. And I
Mm.
think that some of her stuff is better than other stuff. And I've read per this challenge on Storygraph 64% of her books. I think my favorite is The Parable of the Sower and The Parable of the Talents. And I people reference them, but I don't feel like enough. And in
Yeah.
the context of which I want them to reference them,
Yeah.
they are and she's writing these books in the 90s or 80s 90s
Yes.
and it's very much influenced by Reagan and
Boo.
well
Sorry. You said
yes,
that.
boo Reagan. It's very much influenced by like that time period. You can absolutely feel that in the book, but the book is set in 2025 and some of the things that
Mm.
happen are like, oh my God, is she can she foresee the future?
Right,
And
right.
like it explicitly says "Make America Great Again" in one of those books. But that was also like a Reagan thing. But how she's making this world, there's a lot of it's cli-fi. It's a climate disaster.
Mhm.
That's a huge thing that's impacting this world. Um, and the government and how the government is handling people not well, I'll tell you that. It feels very similar to the world we're living in, but she's such a great storyteller. I highly recommend both of those books. The Lilith's Brood series. It's three books: Dawn, Adulthood Rights, and Imago. Um, I also like those books. They're a little weirder. They're also cli-fi.
Yeah.
Um, it's like tentacle porn light, in a respectful way. um, but also very good. She has a lot of themes about kind of eugenics. I would say a mix of like eugenics and like forced reproduction and slavery. Like that's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot
like
of
Handmaid's Tale in space with like different
yes,
species.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I can absolutely agree with Octavia Butler being underhyped. I admittedly ride pretty hard for Octavia Butler. I teach Kindred in my high school English classes.
Octavia Butler has such an extensive catalog that you can talk so long about, with a lot of really interesting themes. And I think we'll just end up doing an Octavia Butler episode down the line here to really express our feelings.
Yeah, we have a lot of big opinions on Butler and experience with her, and we want to read more of her.
Hmm.
So if you are interested, definitely stay tuned for a future episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to do a little genre shift, there's some nonfiction I feel like isn't really talked about, and I feel like in general nonfiction, except for like some memoirs, some self help,
Yeah,
whatever.
it
Like
doesn't get the same hype.
yeah, like everything is tuberculosis. That's a big one.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like some nonfiction that I think is maybe underhyped or just people don't talk about it as much. The Food Explorer by Daniel Stone, really interesting about U.S. history and how our agricultural system basically started.
Hmm.
One of my favorite books of all time, The Invention of Nature by Andrea Wolf.
Mm.
It's in a way similar to the Food Explorer, but it's all about Alexander von Humboldt and his travels and science and how he did so much for the New World. Savor, A Chef's Hunger for More is a
Hmm.
memoir about a chef. Really good. Really,
Hmm.
really good.
Really, really sad.
Really sad.
Yeah.
Ooh, another memoir that I think is really underhyped is In the Dream House by Carmen
Mm.
Maria
Hmm.
Machado,
Yeah.
which is a 2019 book. And it is kind of like one of the least memoiry memoirs that I've read in recent years. I think because of the writing style, it's in what I think is a really digestible writing style because it's told in all of these short vignettes where
Hmm.
sometimes like a quote unquote chapter is only like a page.
Yeah.
But it is just a really interesting and nuanced portrayal of abuse in a non-heteronormative relationship. A lot of like emotional abuse, a little bit of even like bordering into physical abuse. But what I liked about it is that you are really able to understand the psychological effects and all of the layers, I feel like, of that experience for
Hmm.
her. And at the same time, like I have to admit that probably why I feel it's underhyped is because at the time that I read it, I was in a queer, emotionally abusive relationship. And I hadn't yet kind of like accepted the forest for the trees. And so as I was reading it, it was one of the first pieces of work that like really made me feel seen,
Yeah.
which is honestly like one of the thoughts about a book being hyped or not hyped
Hmm.
that I think is really interesting as well, which is like we know it's subjective, we said it's subjective. So much of that subjectivity actually also comes down to individual experience
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
and what you feel you can relate to. So sometimes when a book gets, caught up in the hype machine, maybe it's because actually there's relatability there. And maybe sometimes a book speaks so deeply to you, but it's a more niche or selective kind of experience and it hasn't found its way to pop culture in the same way because of that. So I really think that thinking about In the Dream House also made me think about how we can sit here for an hour plus and we can talk about what we think is overhyped and what we think is underhyped. But at the end of the day, it is going to come down to who you are and your personal experiences and what media you're consuming and what you're seeing on TikTok or Instagram and how much you care about critics and books. And it's all very personal. And the important thing is to like read so that you can make your own personal opinions,
Mm-hmm.
which we're full of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun thing is like the more you read or the more you watch movies, the more you listen to music, you find what you like.
You get taste.
Yeah, you find what you like and you actually delve into those
Mhm.
subgenres, and then you're like, oh, I really like the writing style by this
Yeah.
author. You know, like it gets fun.
Yeah.
And
If
even
you only ever read Sarah J. Maas, you don't know how savor feels, right? Like,
Put down the Dino chicken nuggets, put down the Colleen Hoover, put down the Frida McFadden,
Mhm.
and expand your palette.
Yeah.
I was on Libby the other day looking at available audiobooks because I had a long drive ahead of me, and the first like 10 were different Frida McFadden books. And I was like, I didn't know there were this
That
many
many.
to begin with,
And
let
she's
alone
popping it out like a
all
Quaker.
available all available right now.
Yeah. Well, I think like our very different lists kind of go to show that like it is pretty subjective,
Hmm.
but I hope somebody was able to get a recommendation from
Oh,
our
absolutely.
underhyped
Yeah.
list, and maybe we helped you steer clear of a book that's on the overhyped list.
Yeah, and I would also like caution people of the TikTokers that recommend books because sometimes I feel like they don't read those books. They just put them on a list. So
I mean,
know your creator.
I think you could say the same thing about some critics, like
Oh, yeah.
anyone trying to sell you anything.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.
We hope you'll keep reading the room with us.
So keep checking back for more episodes every Monday and Thursday that dive into the spaces where literature, media, and culture meet.
Please reach out to us at Read the Room a Culture Club at gmail.com for feedback and topic suggestions.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at readtheroom_culture club for the most up-to-date podcast information.
If you enjoy our podcast, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen.
Drop us a comment below about your overhyped, underhyped, or average hyped books.
Yeah, accurately hyped.
Yeah. And remember to take up space in whatever room you're in. Thank you.